Hey guys, we're in Mark 14 and we're going to pick up where we left off in verse 53. I just want to read a couple verses and then we're going to talk about it. So verse 53, it says, "And they led Jesus away to the high priest, and with him were assembled all the chief priests, the elders, and the scribes. But Peter followed them at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. And he sat with the servants, and he warmed himself at the fire." So Judas has done his deed, and Jesus has been arrested, and he's going to be taken before the Sanhedrin and falsely and unfairly tried. And the rest of the apostles, they've forsaken him. They've ran. Peter's no longer really following Jesus, but he's just kind of following at a distance. He's kind of trailing what's going on. He still cares. He wants to know what's going to happen with Jesus. And so he enters into the courtyard of the high priest. He sits down by the fire where he can still see what's going on with Jesus. And he's just trying to blend in with the rest of the servants that are sitting there warming themselves. And this is one of those sandwich stories, because we have this short little section, and then we're going to have this trial, if we call it. And then we're going to get back to it in tomorrow's video when we get to verse 66. We're going to look at the events of Peter sitting there by the fire. So let's pick up and look at the trial in verse 55. "Now the chief priest and all the council sought testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. For many bore false witness against him, but their testimony did not agree. Then some rose up and bore false witness against him, saying, 'We heard him say, I will destroy this temple made with hands, but within 3 days I will build another made without hands.' But not even then did their testimony agree. And the high priest stood up in the midst of and asked Jesus, saying, 'Do you answer nothing? What is it these men testify against you?' But he kept silent and answered nothing. And again the high priest asked him, saying to him, 'Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?' And Jesus said, 'I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven.' And then the high priest tore his clothes and he said, 'What further need do we have of witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?' And they all condemned him to be deserving of death. And then some began to spit on him and to blindfold him and beat him and say to him, 'Prophesy.' And the officers struck him with the palms of their hands." We have the Jewish Sanhedrin holding this trial. That's not really a fair trial at all. We have this saying that you're innocent till proven guilty, meaning that you've been accused of something, but you're not guilty till we sift through the evidence and come to some kind of verdict. You may even be innocent. But what they've done is they've declared Jesus to be guilty, and they're trying to solicit testimony that collaborates with their verdict. So they don't care what it is, as long as they can pin something down on Jesus. And witnesses are incredibly important when it comes to a trial. But the kind of witnesses they're finding are these false witnesses. Some of them they've even bribed to come forward with testimony that's not true. And they can't even get on the same page with everybody's testimony. And so it makes you wonder why they're even having a trial in the first place. I think maybe it's just to soothe their own conscience and probably to soothe the people. You know, they're already afraid that there's going to be an uproar because they've arrested Jesus. What are the people going to do when they find out they killed Jesus without even having a trial? The high priest decides he's going to stand up and start asking him questions. He's going to get him to try to incriminate himself. And so he asks a question and Jesus says nothing in return. And then he asks him another question. He says, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?" And Jesus says, "I am. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power, the coming of the clouds of the air." And the high priest tears his clothes and he says, "Well, what further need do we have of witnesses? You've heard the blasphemy yourself. You heard it from his own mouth. He's guilty." And so this is an outrage to the high priest. And so they begin to beat him, spit on him. They blindfold him and slap him and say, "Jesus, prophesy. Tell us who slapped you." And so they're tormenting him. And Jesus is doing nothing in return. One of the themes throughout Mark is the power of Jesus. Jesus does some incredibly powerful things throughout the entire book. And yet here's Jesus being tormented. And he's holding back his power because he's laying down his life for us.